I am joined by Jack Allen. You've seen him here before, and when he was slogging through the weeds and winning with Empire, and now he's back because he's decided winning with Empire was too easy, and he wanted a challenge, and that challenge is playing Skaven, and not Renegade Skaven, despite what it might say on the rankings website. Jack has been playing true blue, old-fashioned, terrible Legacy Skaven. How are you doing, Jack?
I'm good, mate. How are you? Good to be here.
I'm doing well. Thank you for coming on. So I wanted to have you on because, and I need to double check, fact check this. I'm not sure anyone's won a GT with Skaven and gone like true 5-0 undefeated GT Legacy Skaven. I don't think anyone's even done it with Renegades, but obviously there's not been very long for people to catch up and do that there. So I really wanted to have a chat about the how you did it is the main thing.
I did check just I on the old world rankings. I sweated it to see how the rats were doing, and it's if you just lock it to 5-game GTs, there's a third and a first. That's it.
Nice. And are you both of those?
Yeah, the third was mine.
That's impressive. That's impressive.
Event,
yeah. So before we get into talking about the faction itself, what drew you towards Skaven and wanting to play them and really push for that event win?
Well, I can remember it was like quite early it was like September last year. We were talking quite a lot about it, if you remember. Like, the draw is a challenge. So assuming that you play any like, obviously we spoke about like video games before. If you choose the difficulty of a video game, I am someone who always chooses the hardest difficulty mode on any game.
Sure.
Just even though sometimes it's like reduces the fun.
Yeah.
Make it the most complex puzzle possible. So we arrived like September last year, like you kindly said, I did all right with Empire, kind of figured them out. And then I was like, right, we need a new army. And there was this like all the hype about obviously Skaven being just that like everyone knows, like you hear it across the internet, they're just horrendous, and they're followed up by their win rate, right? But I was like, yeah, I just want a challenge. I want to see. I want to go for it. I want to see if we can make the impossible work. And just kept hitting my head against the wall until I figured some stuff out. But
yeah, no, that's great because it's interesting because I think there are 3 people that I know of who have played Skaven to some level of tournament success, and I'm including myself there, but I'm the lowest on the scale of these 3. And there's been 3 different, very distinct styles that I've seen play. So I obviously, if people will remember from previous videos, did a lot of Gutter Star, just running around with ridiculous units of 20 plus Skaven Gutter Runners, Demonology, yada yada. That was pretty decent in the early meta when people are still running things like Gorgons, but as the game has become less and less friendly to low AP massed attacks without access to, lots of stacking debuffs, that's not anywhere near as good as it was, I think. Anubis as well, who was doing pretty well with Plague Monks, a big Death Star of Plague Monks, and then yourself, and you've built mostly around a big Death Star of Stormvermin, is that correct?
That is correct. Yeah. I'm familiar with the Plague Monk Death Star as well, which might be even better in the new Renegade rules. But yeah, my list is based around the Stormvermin. I personally I would never choose an army that has the Frenzy rule or the Impetuous rule in any of the units. Like I've heard you say on the channel before, I'm a big believer in controlling my own unit. So I personally wouldn't even give that a spin. But the way my list works as well, it would be a complete disaster. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
Because it's more built the Skaven way, where it's like, I don't really want to fight you.
Yeah.
If you back me into a corner, I've got sharp teeth. So
sure. That's
the kind of like the idea. Like, I'm trying to kite you.
Yeah.
To get away, and maybe we can have a rumble on the last turn. But yeah, so that's the basic, the big the tactics based around the big Death Star of Stormvermin.
Yeah, And this is very much a list that plays very well in singles, where you're playing win-loss draw tournaments, and all you need to do is get 5-11-9s. That gets you over the edge. You just need to scrap for every point, not give up too many, and that'll get you to the victory. As long as you're playing a tournament where there's only one 5-0 player, or maybe you've beaten the other top competitors. So it's a really interesting playstyle, like the avoidance playstyle we saw with Wood Elves earlier in the edition. Before we talk about the actual tournament itself where you did win, I am interested to hear your thinking about how the list works. So what I'll do is I'll put the list in the description box of the video so you can have a look at it at your leisure. But basically you've gone for a single wizard, a warlord with the Fellblade, double chieftain, Stormvermin, 2 units of clan rats, 2 units of gutter runners. That is not a lot of drops, which I think probably helps with the general playstyle.
Yeah, there's not a lot of models. I mean, it kind of is, but for a Skaven army, it feels light anyway. Because we've got there's not really any monsters or anything like that. So, but yeah, that's the gist of it. Basically, that's the list. What do we want to go? So you want to go through the tactics of it? Or?
Well, so let's go down sort of what led you to building the list. So you've gone for a single wizard, and I know you've played around with multiple wizards. When I've played you previously, you've used the level 2 Warlock Engineers as well. What was the thought process behind going for just a single wizard, Elementalism? You picked up a Lore Familiar double power scroll, and then you've got the Warpstone, 2 additional Warpstone tokens as well. Wow.
Yeah, the pain. So the thought process on this is obviously with the basic Skaven rules, you can only have 2. You can have a Grey Seer and a Warlord, or 2 Grey Seers.
Yeah.
Now I found through playtesting, if you don't have the Warlord with a Fellblade, it's basically you're gonna have 2. You're gonna use those options. But what I found was if you don't have the Warlord with a Fellblade, you turbo lose to Bretonnians instantly. We'll come to we can come to that when I'm talking about him specifically. But it's basically a tech that I think that you need to have. That Warlord with a Fellblade is like a deterrent for the unit.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, the Fellblade is a nuts magic item, +3 strength, no armor ward saves or regeneration, and you have multiple wounds D3, and on top of that, you've got initiative 7 base or something?
Yeah,
something ridiculous.
That's the key thing. Yeah, 7 base. Yeah.
So probably going to hit first, probably going to do some damage. Does risk doing, killing yourself pretty early, because at the start of every command sub phase, you have to roll a d3. On a 1, you lose a wound. So that's pretty rough. You can definitely blow yourself up pretty quickly.
He killed himself in 2 games, in the GT, yeah.
Was that before anyone interacted with him, or was that just sort of he'd taken some damage and then finished himself off?
No, in those games, he just killed himself, the first game on turn 4, What I will say in regards to you asked about the Grey Seer, like I previously ran 2 Grey Seers. The other thing is, when you run 2 level 4s, obviously in Skaven, no spell familiar, so the dry roll in spells is incredibly inconsistent.
Sure.
And the Grey Seer is not cheap as well, so it's like when we're trying to min max the absolute 9s with this. So any kind of inconsistency is a disaster. Like picking my spells is so important on the Elementalism as well.
Sure. Yeah, it's definitely not a lore that you want to just roll 4 spells into.
No, so battle magic as well. I use, because obviously we want the Oaken Shield, but what I found on the most recent, the winning iteration is, even though I've got the Earthen Rampart spell, which is absolutely crucial in winning the matches, you can just equip the guys with the Chieftain with a Talisman of Protection. Even though I'm casting Earthen Ramparts, you can't cast Earthen Ramparts and charge.
Yeah.
So I found that the Death Star has to be a deterrent. So it's obviously with the Swift Stride banner, it's got a 14-inch declarable charge with rerolls with Warband as well. So I needed to have a threat where if you have to respect that threat. So if you've got your 600-point dragon, now you have to respect that 14 inches.
Yeah.
It's basically a board control thing. So I can, instead of, because obviously I can't cast the ramparts and charge you, and you'll know that. So now I can actually charge you.
Yeah.
And then obviously challenge you out with a cautious shield, and then the cautious shield chieftain. So then I've got a 2-up, 5-up challenge person. So even the nastiest dragons in the game aren't maxing out overkill against that usually.
Sure. And for anyone who's not aware, cautious shield, you can forgo your attacks, but it gives you +3 to your save. So you get from, heavy armor and a shield, normally a 4-up. Suddenly you're rocking that 2-up armor save, which is pretty tasty, stacked with the Talisman protection.
Right.
So you mentioned 600-point dragons. This big Death Star of Stormvermin, you've got a few bits and pieces in there. What does that get you to combat res-wise?
So we've got Horde, which is nice. So we've got 3 ranks, Close Order, Banner, and then BSB in there for 6. And then we've got the Banner of Grand Superiority, which adds D3.
Yeah.
So we're looking at 7 to 9 base combat res, which obviously
7's the magic number.
Yeah, it cranks it. And then 7 is the magic number, but with the Swift Stride banner, the tech that they've got is, if you literally in the chat you fight the challenge chieftain and you do 2 wounds, and I get my average is 8. So we're looking, if I win by 6, now I double outnumber you, and now I can chase you down with Swift Stride as well.
Yes.
So you will flee. Like, I'm really cranking, even if you're leadership 10, I'm really cranking that break test. Yeah.
So just to break that down, to make it clear for everyone, this is a great combo at killing dragons, because when you go in with a dragon, you're going to get challenged out. The maximum that you could do if you go into a unit champion would be 1 wound for the model that you're killing, 5 points of overkill, and then close order. So you'd be getting 7 combat res, and this unit will give you guaranteed 7 combat res just through rank bonuses, close order, double banners, the Grand Banner of Superiority that gives you D3. On top of that, you've made it so that actually dragons bounce a little bit. They're always going to kill the model that, is going into the challenge, but they might only do 2 or 3 wounds, at which point they're losing combat by 4, 5, 6. You're double outnumbering them. When you're double outnumbered, that means that the unit that has lost combat auto flees on anything other than a give ground. So a fullback in good order becomes a flee. And then, because you've got the Banner of Verminous Scurrying in there, gives you the Swift Stride, which means that they're running 3d6, but you're chasing 3d6 as well. So you can run down dragons and really, really feel like you're waving the Grand Banner of Superiority.
Yeah, and I think the power in that is not always actually doing that. I very rarely do that, but it's the same as the Bretonian Duke. The fear of it is so valuable. Like, people have to respect it. Like, it's like board control. So it's just the agency you get from them having to play around it. You can really crank that value.
So I guess you make sure that your opponent is 100% clear on what will happen if the dragon does charge that unit, and you can be like, no, you're welcome to charge it, but just a heads up, you're gonna lose that combat, and I might run you down.
100%. Yeah, there's no gotchas. It's 100%. And the other thing is, with the very, like, every game, like I explained to my opponent, this is how I'm gonna try and win.
Yeah.
Like, this is this is like the big brother, the anti-dragon combo. With Urban Ramparts as well, obviously I play the TSN almost all the time. And Rob's ruled it that Earthen Ramparts, you can't stomp, sorry.
Okay.
Like, he's ruled it on the FAQ, so it's clearly saying that as well, because that is the tech. Obviously, I've said I don't really want to charge you, but I'm gonna literally make myself like a very unedible porcupine, where it's a lot of points as well. Like, if you want to hit it, you got to hit it with everything. And even then, it's rough. So it's more of a deterrent. So you're just telling your opponent that, and then they're just kind of looking after the gutter runners, basically.
So that's your anti-dragon tech. All of the characters going into the big unit of Stormvermin. A couple of unit clan rats. What do you use the clan rats for?
Clan Rats are just obviously tax, miserable
Yeah.
core tax. The unit of 24 is like perfectly fits in a wood to block out the Green Knight.
Nice.
So that just let's chuck those extra points on him. And actually, they play a weird rule. They play a decent. They're in game 4. We usually play capture the tower.
Sure.
So they do work in that game because they like line up and they just beeline for it in like the last couple of turns and usually do a good job of capturing that. Otherwise, it's kind of like they're 80 points, and I'll put them on either flank, and it's like, right, do you want to commit to going to take them?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you can have them. They're going to make it as hard as possible for you to pick them up. They're going to be moving around the woods, like trying to get out of line of sight, stuff like that. Very little agency in them. Just another fun part of the list, though. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you did sort of allude to the list being a porcupine. What's the real threat projection? What are the bristles of the list? The couple of units there.
Yeah, so the interesting one, the main DPS, the main damage is the 2 units of gutter runners. So the tactic I like to use is so in deployment you mentioned that there's low drops. It is impossibly low drops.
Yeah.
I think that there's 4 drops, but I always scout my gutter runners. So you would think it's kind of like it's not ideal that they giving my opponent the +1.
Yeah.
But basically the idea is the Stormvermin get placed bang in the middle on the line, 12 inches like this. There it is. Come and get it. And then so the opponent now has it's kind of like weird. Like, what do they do with their whole army?
Yeah.
Like they have to think, because I've got my scouts coming in after they've deployed. So it's not an intuitive way to deploy for them either. Like they've probably never played against an army that's trying to do this either.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult puzzle for them. So they'll usually like spread out a little bit. So then what we can do very quickly is we can refuse flank. Because the Stormvermin being central, they can, with one of the spells that I'm going to take, Travel Mystical Pathway, we can quickly teleport 12 inches away. Obviously the comp version still, but for a unit of close order infantry, even the comp version is excellent for a unit of 36 Stormvermin in a 6x6. So what we're trying to do is we're going to try and refuse flank, and then we're going to scout our gutter runners on one flank, and we're going to try and alpha strike a concentration of force. We're going to try and collapse one of their flanks, which will give us an escape route to swing round, and hopefully, with any luck, it will take out a third of their army, which they've placed on the other flank out of the game till like maybe the late game.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Perfect. So you've got a very difficult to interact with list that also has pretty decent damage. Obviously, between Plague of Rust and that poison shooting, you can ping off some reasonable, respectable amount of wounds. Yep. So that's sort of the list as we have it there. So let's talk about the event. Coming into this event, was this one that you were expecting to win? Because obviously is this your, I want to say, 6th tournament with Skaven?
Yeah, 7th. Yeah.
7th. Wow. So you've been really grinding away with it. Was this the one? Did you think coming into it, this is the one that I'm going to get?
No, to be honest, mate, no. I don't think you ever go into it thinking you're going to win it.
Sure.
It's not one of those. It's just trying to get, because with Skaven, one roll you just lose the game.
Sure.
And I've had that before in the 7. Like I've pushed hard and I've failed that terror test. That on leadership 10 to lose when I was in a good position to challenge for an event before. So you're never really going into it thinking that you're going to win. You just trying to min-max. You're trying to hope the dice gods are with you. You're trying to hope that the games play out in your favor. Yeah, basically. Yeah,
no, that makes a lot of sense. So in this event, who were you playing against round 1? What was your first matchup?
So I was playing against Leith round 1. He's playing Warriors of Chaos with a big boy dragon. Which is it's an interesting matchup because he had the Blaster Caster, but what happened was, again, this is kind of my strategy. he deployed quite neutrally across the board.
Yeah.
So all I did is I did an absolutely like ridiculous refuse flank, and I looked to collapse the right flank to pick up, and then basically the rest of his army took too long to get across the board to get me. So I'm picking up those points and setting up a defensive position using I think it was the map with a building in the corner. So I'm locked in against the building. Picking up the points, and then obviously sacrificing a unit of clan rats on the other side of the board to slow them down even further. But yeah, to go back to the damage, the DPS. So obviously the wombo combo is Plague of Rust, then there's 34 poison slings.
Yeah,
that is the real threat projection there, and also the Fellblade in the unit of Stormvermin. If like for example, when they're like I said, one of the worst matchups for us is when we get hit by the pegs, the peg boss.
Yeah.
So that tech is, if you set up earthen ramparts, it doesn't actually matter because they make a disordered charge, but because they've got fly, they still get their initiative bonus. But when you've got earthen ramparts up, nothing to do with the stomps. Usually units use they lose their initiative bonus when they charge. So now all of our Skaven melee characters are a very high base initiative.
Yeah.
So as you'll know, is they jump out, and what I do, because I've got 4 characters. So the Warlord will go in the back rank because too many characters, right? So I've got BSB, Chieftain, Seer. The Warlord will start in the back. So when you pick the combat, the Seer will use Verminous Valor to get out of dodge. The Warlord will join the fighting rank, and he's coming in at initiative 7. And usually now he is striking first with earthen ramparts up. So if you get hit by the peg boss, usually he rips at least 2 pegs, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, no saves, D3 wounds.
Yeah.
So he's ripping out 2 pegs. That usually is enough to stop you from losing the combat like disastrously, because they've got first charge.
Yeah.
So a little bit of attack there, but yeah.
Nice. Not calling you sneaky, but that's exactly the sort of sneaky underhand Skaven tactic that I think you need to leverage the fact that you are made out of tissue paper when you've got a lord who is probably down to his last wound due to himself, and then also holding a weapon that...
It's not even the sneakiest thing, as like we spoke about before. When you attack, and obviously this is all I will always explain how this works to my opponent before we go into it. But when they've attacked, then they can retire to the back rank after they've attacked as well.
Yeah.
So you can't hit them back. So they attack, and then they push all their mates in front of them like a true brave leader of rats, and then to guard themselves. So there is a bit of that. It's a bit of min-maxing. It's a bit of Skaven. It feels quite fluffy to me that the Skaven.
I agree. Yeah.
They jump out, they swing for you, then they run away.
I think it as well, because Skaven are such an underpowered army. It's the sort of rule that if Bretonnians had it, you'd be going, "Oh, this is ridiculous. What are you talking about?" But because it's the worst faction in the game, and it also fits thematically, and you're being very upfront and warning your opponents about it, it's one of those where you're like, "Oh well, okay. Now that I've experienced it, I'm gonna have to play around that, because that is brutal."
Yeah, I mean, you're just trying to squeeze everything, is trying to squeeze every last bit of value out of it just to stay alive. Yeah. Love it.
Fantastic. So round 1 you played into Chaos, had a good win there. Round 2 you played into Chaos, and this is not a single dragon, but this is a double dragon, which is maybe where the combat res issues start to kick in, I would think.
Yeah, so this was against Matt as well, so he's obviously high up in the rankings, like strong player. He brings strong lists,
Sure.
and this is a tough matchup. Yeah, luckily it was on a mountain pass, so he's kind of bottlenecked a little bit to start with. So he's sending forward. So what kind of happened in this one? Yeah, because there's 2 dragons. That's rough, obviously. So Ideally, we want to deal with his army a bit at a time. So what happened? We threatened with the gutter runners, and I think we got lucky enough to get the first turn. So even though we didn't get the +1, we did nothing with the poison shooting turn 1, hilariously. But then what Matt did is he charged in the dragon into the gutter runners straight away. So what happened then is it kind of like the dragon was way ahead of the other troops in this match. So on my second turn, I managed to get the wombo combo off the Plague of Rust, then just absolutely slapped it with everything, and I think I did 4 or 5 wounds. So now the Chaos Dragons, he's the Chaos. He had the regen build, so he's not like petrified at this point, but it at least poses a question, right?
Sure.
So then the dragon ends up going into the brick. It does 0 wounds in the challenge.
Yep.
Like actually 0, because I get ramparts up, I pass the terror test, I've got the 2 up, 5 up. He bounces off basically, but Matt positioned it well, so the dragon bounced through his other endless units of knights and Warpfire Dragon, everything, so it was safe.
Yeah.
And then the key thing, the worst thing about Skaven is on the warband rule, like it's more bit of a poison chalice, where you can't use your rank bonus for the restraint test, and you can't re-roll it with a BSB.
Yeah.
So we're looking at a leadership 7 restraint when we desperately want to restrain. So we obviously fail the restraint. We come bundling forward into, I think he set it up so it was a unit of dragon ogres and 2 units of knights.
Yeah.
With the Warpfire threatening the flank of the unit. So it's getting pretty spicy at this point. But yeah, it was a back and forth, that game. But it swung both ways. Basically, I failed an overrun on knights where I needed a 10. I got hit in the flank with his wizard on chariot, and then I popped. It was like the game 2 against Matt. If you played it a million times, you wouldn't be able to get that again, I don't think. I popped through a unit of knights. I lost 14 Stormvermin through Perils test.
Yeah.
Then my gutter, I managed to get a very clutch. I managed to get a clutch travel mystical pathway on a unit of gutter runners to finish off the last 2 wounds on his dragon.
Nice.
Just clipped the last. It was down to his last roll. He needed to regen. I got it. So the dragon's gone. I'm down to like 10 gutter runners.
Yeah.
Get hit in the front by a unit of knights. Get hit in the side by the Warpfire Dragon. So the Warpfire Dragon's coming in the side. I've got ramparts up, but I've only got 12 Stormvermin left or something like that. The Warlord goes to the fighting rank to fight the Warpfire Dragon. Kills the Warpfire Dragon and is on 4 wounds. The Warpfire Dragon, because it's got +4 initiative, is initiative 7 as well, kills the Warlord.
Yep.
They both kill each other. It blows up. Kills 2 of the knights in the it's just completely insane. And it comes down to the last turn where his Blaster Caster Lord fires all the magic missiles, and we're like randomizing wounds on the unit to see if the Grey Seer basically survives on 1 wound. So, like, obscene game. You just got to get there, just hung on at the end, you know. So
sure. So a bit of luck involved in that game, but I think if we're talking about winning 5 games with Skaven at a GT, that's probably always going to be involved. But congratulations on that, and you've already had a bit of a hard run. You've had your first 2 games playing against Warriors of Chaos at GTs, especially the smaller size GTs that we typically see here in the old world. A lot of the time, the first couple of games you play, they're not gimmies, but they're going to be your easier games. You might play against someone who's bringing something a little less standard. You might be going, I've got someone playing Troll Horde here, which is a fine list, but not punishing in the way that something like Mortuary Cult or Warriors of Chaos can be. So 2 games in, you're already sweating. You've beaten Warriors of Chaos twice. Surely it gets easier at this point.
Yeah.
What do you play game 3?
I played the Doctor, Luke. Luke Bledsoe. A really strong player, great tactician. He was bringing bringing I would say a little bit of a toned down list.
Mm.
And he was playing Exiles as well. We had a chat about Bretonians.
Yeah.
And we share the opinion that the Grand Army is the best way to run it, like for singles anyway, I think.
Okay.
But he said he just wanted to like tone down his list because he was having such success with it a little bit.
Sure.
Which is fair. But yeah, the strength of schedule is kind of crazy. Like you said at the start, it is a win-loss draw.
Yeah.
And if it was a 20-0 event, I would have come 5th.
Sure.
And the 4 people that I'd beat would have all come above me. So it is, we're squeezing these wins out. Like game 1 was 14-6, the second game was 12-8 against Luke. Really insane game.
Yeah.
Like really close game again. He managed to get a huge. He got incredibly unlucky with his artillery at the start. The trebuchet blew itself up on turn 1, I think, or turn 2. The cannons, obviously, every roll where the cannons are trying to snipe my Grey Seer, if I roll a 1 on the lookout, so I lose. So that's just one. This is why your brain ends up melting out of your ears, because these rolls are like, you get a roll where you like, if I fail this roll, we just lose the game instantly.
Sure.
So that was fun. Dodged that, and then it came down to a really, really weird late game where he multi-charged everything in, including the Green Knight, obviously the beloved Green Knight, and I failed the terror test.
Yep.
So I just thought I'd lost at that point, but luckily with a Swift Stride, I managed to flee in far enough to pop through my unit of clan rats, which were chasing down the bombards.
Yep.
So this is like unbelievable scenes, and then managed to rally on the next turn and then hold for 2 rounds of combat without earthen ramparts against 2 barons and the Green Knight and a couple of pegs.
Yeah.
So just again, unbelievably close game down to the last roll. I think it was down to the last break test. I needed to roll a 7 or less. Obviously, it's 42% chance I lose that game as well.
Yeah.
So.
I do want to as well, because you're telling us about all the things that went well for you. I do want to point out that despite things going in your favor, when you look at the final standings, out of the top 5, you beat 3 of the top 5. You are one of them, and then you didn't have to play against the 3rd place player. So you didn't have an easy run. You did end up playing against most of the very good players here. In fact, not only did you play against most of the top 5, you also played against the 6th place player. So end of day 1, you've gone 3-0 with Skaven. Have you managed to do that before? Have you come into day 2 with... No, so this is the dream.
It was the dream, mate. It felt great. Like it's been. I've had 2 in a draw.
Yeah.
And then you smashed me like in the 3rd game. That was a horrendous game.
Yeah.
Where you just bullied me. And then I've had so that event I was feeling good. Like I've had 2 in a draw was the best I'd done. But getting the 3, it was like wow. And I knew because there was only me and Owen on 3, so I knew I had Empire in game 4. And Owen had been absolutely crushing it.
Yeah.
But I obviously I main Empire, so I kind of I mean I felt more comfortable with that rather than facing. I kind of got the uncomfortable matches out of the way, kind of.
Yeah, you'd done the heavy lifting on day 1. However, I will say I've talked to Owen a fair amount, and I think playstyle-wise, you two are quite similar. He goes to the same level of like ridiculous in-depth thinking about lists. He's very measured with his play. He makes sure, like every decision is agonized over. And I think it comes from playing these armies where if you make a single wrong move, oh no, there's a dragon in my face and I've lost 600 points and now the game's over. So despite you saying that you'd played the harder matchups, you were now playing into Empire, which was going to be, I think, maybe not the easy match that people might expect it to be. I think Empire is a list that's probably quite good against you because he does have triple cannons, and as you pointed out, any time that you fail a lookout, sir, that's game over. So, how was the game into Owen?
So this was another brain melter as well.
Yeah.
Luckily, I keep saying luckily, I'm going to have to stress that to get this, like, things, I had to obviously play well, but there's so many roles where it was in the balance. But yeah, this was game 4, so it was Capture the Tower. So it was the best map to play Owen on, because he was in a tough situation where how do you deploy your cannons with the building block in the middle? I personally would. We spoke about it after. I talk to Owen a lot about Empire and like the way the competitive Empire builds, and I honestly believe Owen's list build is stronger than mine that I had the success with. He's dropped the Hellblasters, and I think that's a good choice, because I just don't think they're currently doing as well for us. He put in a battle magic wizard on a Pegasus, which for me is a disaster as well. With the gutter runners, they are.
Sorry, bud. You just cut out there for a sec. So basically, you said he's got a battle magic caster, which for me is a disaster.
Right. So the way this match is going to go is my win condition is not getting my Grey Seer's head blown off by a cannonball. So he put 2 of his cannons on one side and 1 of his cannons on the other side of the board. So basically, turn 2, I can TMP to the left, so I can only get hit by 1 cannon. That was the quick play that I made because the building in the middle was blocking the diagonal cannonballs for 2 of the cannons. So we managed to do that, set that up, and I think Owen on turn 1 he kind of went like everyone does. He went straight after the gutter runners, but I think he put the battle chicken, the Imperial Griffin, which I love. I think it's one of the strongest models in Empire. He put it right. He went beeline straight for the gutter runners, but he was in the front arc of Plague of Rust. But it was not intuitive because it was through the building.
Right, yeah, and it's such a long spell, 21-inch range.
It's a big boy range, yeah. And because you don't have to have line of sight for a hex, it wasn't intuitive. So I don't want to say like he has to go after the gutter runners. He has to turn them off.
Sure.
So it's difficult. But he got into the wombo combo range. So we suited up the I should say the obviously the Fellblade in all the games, the Fellblade and also the Grey Seer is trying to kill himself every game as well.
Sure.
So against Luke, just to quickly go back, I bought 2 Warpstone tokens, then I rolled 3, so I had 5, and the first 2 I took a wound on, so I couldn't use the last 3. But this is just completely insane. Like these things that are happening, the risk management is hilarious for these things. And every at the start of turn phase, you're rolling for the Fellblade, and your opponents are sitting there with this massive smile on his face.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to win 200 points for free?
Yeah.
But anyway, so get back to that. So we'll get the wombo combo off. We go for the power. Obviously, with Skaven, one of the big power spike is using a power scroll and a biscuit.
Sure.
So we're getting the 3d6 plus the d3. We get the Plague of Rust through. Then I hit him with 17 times 4. 78 poison slings. He gets hit by 78 poison slings on his battle chicken. He goes down to like 2 wounds. He rolls really well on his saves, and we just throw the kitchen sink at him. So we've got the Ruby Ring at him, which doesn't do anything because he's got the 3-up ward save. Then luckily, I just get the Wind Blast through, sending the other Power Scroll in, roll 2 wounds on the Wind Blast. So he's got to pass 6-up, 5-up.
Yeah.
Fails both the armor save with the Plague of Rust. Fails both the armor saves, and then fails both the wards, and the battle chicken's gone.
Yeah.
And that's not even the most unluckiest thing. So now the battle chicken's gone. He's got a unit of 12 Knights of the White Wolf within 6 inches of him. So the general's dead.
I see how this is going.
Yeah, I've seen this film before. Yeah, and then so now he's rolling a panic test for them.
Yep.
On leadership 8 because the general's just died. He obviously rolls a 9.
Yeah, of course.
And they fall back in good order through the cannon off the board.
That is rough.
and then it's like GG kind of thing. Which I felt, I honestly, it was bittersweet. Obviously, I feel like that's not.
You're never happy to see it. You're like, okay, cool, I win the game, but also this. I feel bad for my opponent.
Yeah, I was like, It's really rough. I mean, same for Empire though. Really low leadership.
Yeah.
One roll and you just whole army collapses. Like on leadership 8, it's just like that's rough. It's rough enough on leadership 10 for like big terror tests, but 8 is obviously rough. But yeah, so Owen, like we've chatted loads. We always talk about Empire and competitive like play and how we can get the most out of it. But he had an amazing tournament up until then. He dropped 7 battle points from the first 3 games to go 3-0.
Sure, with Empire, which is really impressive.
With Empire, yeah. So he's absolutely smashing it there. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of just managed to see out the game. Then he had to play with no more melee threats. He had to play very defensively. So I managed to see it out for a 13-7 to go to the final.
Very nice, very nice. So coming into the final, you are 4-0, the only undefeated player. You've beaten a lot of the things that you knew were going to have to come in. Matthew, who's currently in like number 6 or number 7 in the country, playing his Warriors of Chaos. Dr. Luke Blacksill, who's up there in the top, I'm not entirely sure his ranking, but I'm pretty sure he's in the top 25 at the moment, probably up in the top 10, playing Bretonnian Exiles, one of the best armies in the game. You said it's a fluffy or like toned down list.
Yep.
The toning down is he's taken 3 War Machines and slightly less Pegasus Knights. He's still got both incredibly good, killy characters in there, so he's still playing a very cutthroat list. And you're now coming into the final round knowing that even a draw is going to get you over the line. Yep. So what were you expecting to play into between that sort of game 4, game 5, when the stress is mounting because you've almost got it?
Yeah, it was coming. I think it was a roll. I think it was a random roll. I think there was a couple of people I could have played.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping to play. Yeah, it could be like you say. You've been in that situation as well, where you've got a draw, where you can win the event with a draw. It's a big advantage. So I'm just looking for an army that, that isn't an option as well.
Yeah.
So I don't really want a high variance game. If you want.
Yeah, something like a load of cannons that could snipe out your wizard, and then you just immediately lose the game. So anyway, you got Empire again.
Toby, the absolute legend. Yeah, so we find Toby, someone who, again, I talk to a lot about competitive Empire builds. And he's running his Cathay Panda build. But again, a serious threat to me. 1 cannonball to the Grey Seer.
Yeah.
And the game's over. Because I probably can't out-trade him at that point without the Grey Seer, because the Grey Seer needs to keep the other guys alive because he's the general, obviously. So if I lose that leadership bubble, I'm screwed. So Toby just castles in the corner, which I think is good, but he kind of leaves a back door for me to like get to the underbelly kind of thing.
Okay.
But what he was trying to do, and we spoke after, he was trying to bait me to charge, because he's got a huge brick of state troops. He was trying to bait me to charge the state troops through a wood.
Right.
And then obviously I'll be disrupted and stuff like that. And obviously it isn't happening.
No.
But that was his idea, because he knows I have to deal with the cannons, because I can't just I would like to hide the whole game, but the way that he took the building away, that I could hide behind. So he knows he's got the range with the 60-inch great cannons the whole game. So I have to do something. I can't just rely. And honestly, it's rough for me. I mean, obviously it went my way, but I think about 50% of the time or 40% of the time, my Warlord just dies from his own weapon.
Which then you can't play passive, because you're going to give up that's like 350, 400 points by the time you've got the Death of the General points in there as well.
He's not the general.
Oh, okay, sure.
For that reason, but it's 195. So it's just a loss.
200 points. It's enough for a 9-11 loss, yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I can't play around. I can't just hide everything, because that would be miserable. So what I've tried to do is I've gone for the side of his castle. I've picked off a unit, then I've picked off a cannon. and a Hellblaster, and then it's just retreat mode, just run. I've used his cannons are in the corner, and there was a wood. I don't know, like, you know the map where the wood's in the corner. So basically, I've backed off behind that wood. So eventually, when I'm TMPing back with a brick, he won't be able to like trick shot through the wood. Obviously, he can pick the point in the wood, but he won't be able to
reach far enough.
Yes. So we've managed to pick off a few units, then run, but in the midst of that, he's absolutely obliterated one of my units of gutter runners. He's put them down to 5 models.
Yeah.
And then I've failed the test, the panic test. Luckily for me, again, this is like Fireball, Ruby Ring. If he killed one more, they would be rallying on double ones.
Yeah.
Literally one model more, they're rallying on double ones. I managed to rally them on a 7, or no, a 6, because I managed to rally them on a 6, and then I managed to tuck them in behind the brick for safety. A brick of Stormvermin. So I mean, like I said, we've had a laugh about it before. At the end of it, there's so many rolls.
Yeah.
Where the dice are going high up in the air. It feels like they're rolling forever, and it's like if you fail this roll, the GT just like goes up in a puff of smoke. But luckily for me, the dice gods were on my side again there.
Fantastic. It's what we like to see. And that did end up with the first Skaven win, Legacy or Renegades, although this was just the standard Legacy rulings. And that did put you in a position where you can retire from Skaven and go to playing something a little bit easier, which I think is going to be Bretonnians, but without any flyers, you said.
Yeah.
Which is, setting yourself another challenge. You wouldn't want to have it too easy playing Bretonnians. So that's really interesting. Obviously, the book feels quite limited in terms of units that are playable. In the list, you've got the Chieftain, you've got the Warlord, you've got the Grey Seer, you've got the Clan Rats that you have to take 2 units of, you've got the Stormvermin, and then you've got the Gutter Runners. Are there any other units in the book that you think are particularly worth looking at for Skaven players? Anything in there that you really like that you could play around with?
I think, yeah, there is. I think Giant Rats are pretty good. Just the really cheap chaff. I've never used them because my army's super tight on points. I don't really need them for my exact win condition. But I've seen them do pretty well, like fighting the extra rank, 3 points a model. They're fine, like aggressively fine. You
can get a full unit for, I think you get a unit of 11 plus a Taskmaster for something like 41 points. And they can go into marching column. They can be incredibly annoying to deal with. Shout out to Skaven Kev, who does come to a lot of the TSN Arena events. Always a great attitude, great fun to play against. One of the most fun things that he's done against me is he brings so many units of giant rats that I'll be like, I'll deploy a unit. He's like, I've got giant rats, and somehow got more enthusiastic each time he put down a unit of giant rats. So as baiting out early drops, using them as redirectors, or putting them in marching column, firing them around. They're very similar to Chaos Warhounds, I think, in that sort of play style. So yeah. I'd definitely recommend, if you are interested in playing Skaven and don't mind losing most of your games, because it is a hard uphill battle, Giant Rat's one of the shining stars there. Any other units that you particularly like the look of?
Like the look of it, I mean, the Plague Monks is interesting. Like I've said to you, I haven't got any experience using them.
Sure.
Because I just loathe to use a unit that's got Frenzy, right?
Yeah.
But obviously we spoke about it before. Anubis like uses that build, and I can only assume that build gets turbocharged with Renegade rules as well, because you can take them as core, and
sure.
you can slap a Plague Furnace in there as well.
Yeah, true.
And just reduce everyone's toughness, which is just like obviously crazy. But yeah, for me, not really. I mean, not really, mate.
That's fair. That is super fair. I guess the final question I'd have to ask you about the Skaven units themselves is, if we're talking gutter runners, we are on opposite sides of the fence, and obviously we play them in different ways. But what are your thoughts on slings versus throwing weapons?
Yeah, slings. You just want to be as far away as from thing that's going to kill you as possible.
That's fair.
I started off with thrown weapons when my first GT I had them, and what was happening? It was just like they were just missiles.
Yeah.
So I was just like doing the damage, and then they were just getting killed. And I was like, they're quite expensive. These
Sure.
these guys like 17 points a model, and then I kind of worked on the sling version of it, just to stay further away. And more than anything, they're just trying to kite you, basically trying to do damage, kite, get out of the way. With obviously with feign flight, if when you've got a unit of slings, you're probably like 16 inches away. So then even a unit of pegs, like without them rolling like an absolutely crazy roll, you should be able to feign flight away from them. And then obviously with feign flight, you auto rally. So you've got that kind of, you can just keep kiting, then you move back 6.
Yeah.
Or you travel mystical pathway them for 12 back, and then keep hitting them with the 17 slings. But yeah, the slings is just, you just want to be as far away as possible from your opponent. Just get that extra range.
Makes a lot of sense to me. That is very much how I ended up using my slings as well. Perfect. So, Skaven, obviously not in a great spot, but does have some strengths. What would you characterize as the strength of the book? Is it the casters, the magic items, obviously the ability to do the big Death Star? What do you think are the big selling points of Skaven for you?
So yeah, so we're talking just the normal legacy.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So normal legacy is that Warband it's like a bit of a poison chalice a little bit. But it's a very strong rule, Skaven, because they can basically be a leadership 10, which is quite like it's very powerful really for a kind of Skaven where you don't expect that. So you can project this 12-inch bubble of leadership 10, and then BSB, and then no one's really running away unless you want them to. So that is a really powerful rule. Obviously, the downside is your restraint test, your leadership 7, which is rough. But yeah, I think that's a big strength. I think the gutter runners are just a complete. To say they're toughness 3 without an armor save, they don't really die that often. I don't understand really, because of it, obviously evasive is such a strong rule.
Yeah, they do have every defensive rule you'd want to give them. They're skirmishers, so -1 to hit. They can evade away from shooting attacks. They've got fire and flee, and then, as you mentioned as well, they've got feigned flight, so they rally at the end of the flee move, so you're not even at risk of not rallying them or being caught as well. Like, even if you get caught on the feigned flight, you're like, oh, well, whatever. I'm further away than I was, and I still got to do my shooting. Yeah, it's fine. There's a lot of rules in there.
And then obviously you can there's a bit of skill expression with them where if you fall back in good order, pop through another unit and then block that. So obviously they're out of line of sight.
Yeah.
So there is a lot of, it's a very mechanical way to deployment, and then you've got to think ahead, like what's going to target what, and then obviously it's difficult because the opponent has to come after them. To kill them because they know they're going to evade, but then your Stormvermin block is a very big deterrent. If you go within 14 inches of that, then it could be curtains for a lot of stuff as well. So I think that's a real strength. The gutter runners are obviously insane. Like you zoned in them straight away with your build. They just trade up really well. I think they're strong. Obviously the Grey Seer is really expensive, I think, but being able to use the Warpstone biscuit is just kind of really nice, especially with the power scroll.
Yeah, we alluded to those. So this is an item that you declare before you roll the cast, and you add an additional D3 to the cast. If you roll a 1, it doesn't make you miscast, but if you roll a 1, you do take a wound. So there is a downside there, and you get D3 of them for free with the caster. Although it's baked into the unit cost, it's just not out of your magic item allowance, which is quite strong.
Yeah, so being like a lot of my armies that end up with a spell wombo combo that I want to get off. So with a power scroll and a biscuit, you're getting some like 17, like you're getting some crazy like where they're using their fate to dispel it because their level 4 can't even get the roll kind of thing sometimes. So when you need to get that plague of rust off, Obviously, with the Empire, it was Miasmic Mirage. But when you need to get that spell off, you've got that real power spike where you can use. You pay for the equipment, obviously. I pay 20 points for the Power Scroll, 35 points for the Warpstone Biscuit. So you actively paying 35 points to get this spell off.
Sure.
But if it's going to win you the game, then you can really push that power there. So
yeah,
that's another strength. The Swift Stride banner is nice. The unit of Stormvermin is really strong. The whole combination of the combo of the Stormvermin with the 7 to 9 combat rares with the characters in there. So as you'll know, even the Chieftains are pumping out 3 attacks, weapon skill 5, strength 5 with a halberd. So their initiative 6 as well. So if like a unit of knights are charging in the front of your unit with Earthen Ramparts up, they make a disordered charge, so they're going to be striking initiative 3, maybe 4.
Sure.
So all your characters just swing first. It's really nice. Then hide. So there's a little bits and bobs as you can squeak out a little bit of value.
Yeah.
In the units, but the book overall is it's not ideal. I would say.
I think that's fair. And final, just sort of before we get some wrapping up thoughts, you've told me why you don't play the Legacy, the Renegades pack, Skaven. How did you describe? Why did you decide not to play them?
We spoke about it,
yeah.
I said it to Rob. It's basically nerfing my army because it's making it much better.
Yeah. So to sort of make it a sexier tagline, make it more succinct, what you said to me was, I'm not playing it because it makes my army too strong. Which I thought was hilarious, and I think you're really vindicated by the fact that you have now won an event with the worst version of the army you could possibly be taking. Obviously, you've made it as good as possible, but you're not using the potential upgraded homebrew rules there, which I do appreciate from the just the pure single-minded bloodiness of it all.
It was just that. There's a lot of my army specifically, my archetype, like just having a rattling gun with detachment to stand and shoot.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be huge. A huge amount of combat res just added.
Losing the core tax, get the chuck 2 warp lightning cannons. Yeah, it just. I mean, yeah, I just thought the reason I bought the army was I wanted to. It was a challenge, like it was a personal challenge that I had. So yeah, I've got nothing against it. Obviously, it makes the army like more reasonable. So yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining me. Do you have any closing thoughts on the army that you want to wrap up on?
Yeah, I mean it's tough. It's tough in the trenches with the Skaven. You just like shout out to Skaven Kev as well. We always chat about it, and you just have to hang in there. And like I always say, just try and figure out why you're losing the games. Try and tweak your list just bit by bit, and just keep eking out more value, just creeping up, and then stick at it. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for getting to the end of the video. If you've reached this point and you haven't already, I would really appreciate a like, a comment, a subscription if you haven't done those things. It just helps me get seen by more people, boost me up in the algorithm, all of the stuff that the YouTubers do like to say. If you would like to support me in my goal to become a full-time YouTuber, I would absolutely appreciate that. You can become a member below. There are various perks to those, name at the end of the videos, all that good stuff, but it also unlocks some VIP areas in Discord if you become a Longbeard or Ground Knight tier supporter. Those VIP sections are the only parts that are locked away in Discord. You don't have to be a member to join the Discord. I'd recommend that you should. We've got about 450, 500 people on there. It's a great place for discussion, a lot of fun. I do try and chime in as much as possible. And it's also where the Fix My List show lists are put, and also if you are one of the Ground Knight or Longbeard tier supporters, where you participate in choosing which list I play in the monthly Pick My List series.